My name is Imani Rhodes. I'm 28 years old. I live in Los Angeles. And for a long time, I've been running through the back alleys of the influencer industry, a black woman. I realized everything was falling apart that morning. My phone was buzzing. Another campaign cancellation flashing on my screen. No reason stated, but I knew the reason. They were trying to erase my skin. At first, I told myself, it's just a coincidence. But when the same thing kept happening, again and again, it was impossible not to see the truth. I'd be invited to an event, and once they saw my face, I'd get the "sorry, we're full" message. Brands would send me products, but then decide my story didn't quite align with their audience. Yet when a white influencer posted about the same product, praise, comments, sponsored ads, all over the place. Me? I was just a shadow, creating content, putting in the work, but always dimmed, always edited out. I looked back at the canceled partnership again that morning. Just 3 days earlier, we'd had a Zoom call. The brand rep told me, "You've got such a great vibe. We definitely want to work with you." After the call, I sent them my portfolio, my stats, my engagement numbers. I was outperforming my competitors, way outperforming. But their reply? "Management has decided to go in a different direction for this campaign's tone. We'd love to consider you for a future opportunity." Translation, no, as in, you're too black. But they'd never write that, because the truth doesn't fit neatly into corporate emails. That morning, I made a decision. I was done letting brands decide what I could do, or what I was worth. No one gets to tell me how suitable I am. I opened Instagram, scrolled through my old posts, revisited every campaign, every name, every brand I'd ever worked with. Then I deleted all of it, and I started over. Not to impress anyone, but to make the invisible finally seen. Being black in the world of social media is hard, but standing out as a black woman, it's not impossible, just a brutal race. Back then, I made a decision. If I was going to survive in this industry, I couldn't afford to be ordinary. Every post had to be flawless, every caption, every image, every word. There was no room for mistakes, because when a white influencer posts a no-makeup story, she's applauded for her natural beauty. But if I even have one out-of-place curl, I get dragged. They were experimental. I was unpolished. My mornings were rituals. Wake up. Stand in front of the mirror. Skincare, camera angles, lighting. Every detail had to be perfect, because I knew, to be chosen by a brand, I had to work twice as hard, be seen 3 times as much, and stay silent 4 times longer. So I stayed silent. For a long time, I ignored the bullying. I read the comments calling me too much, too dark, too loud. I read them, then swallowed the pain. But I started to notice something. The more I stayed silent, the louder they became. My silence was their comfort, until I finally broke. That day, I recorded a video, no filter, no makeup. Just me. I looked straight into the camera and said, "This is for those who still think success is only about aesthetics. This is for the black women who fight a battle every morning and still smile. And this is for the truth you keep refusing to see. We're here too." The video exploded. It went viral. Thousands of comments. But one stuck with me the most. "Seeing you was the first time I saw myself on screen." That day I made a new decision. I'm not just an influencer anymore. I'm the microphone for every woman whose voice has been muted. After that viral video, my inbox was flooded, but along with the applause came the thorns. Ugh, more victimhood content? Nobody cares about your skin color. You're just not talented. People follow your skin, not your skills. I laughed while reading some of them, but deep inside, something bled quietly. Most mornings, I'd wake up and scroll through the comments. On one side, "Because of you, my daughter believes she can dream now." And on the other, "This campaign would have been way better without you." Then one morning, a new email arrived. Subject line, "Special invitation. I was being asked to speak on a panel." Topic, invisibility in social media, and Black representation. My skin tingled, but a doubt crept in too. Do they want to hear me or just be seen with me? I said yes anyway. At the panel, I was seated between two white influencers. When the mic came to me, I had only one thought. I didn't come here to say thank you. I came here to make you uncomfortable. I took a deep breath, and I said, I'm not here to be your splash of color. I'm not here to make you look diverse. I'm here to bring reality, not just visibility. When you feel represented, it's called influencing. But when we ask for the same, it's labeled attention-seeking. The room went silent. Then came the applause. Then, the tears. A 19-year-old Black girl approached me afterward. Her t-shirt said, "Still I rise." She held my hand, eyes filled with emotion. If I hadn't heard your story, I don't think I'd still be here. And in that moment, I realized I was never truly alone. But the world worked very hard to make me feel like I was. And the fire inside me lit up one truth. The more you try to erase me, the louder I'll exist. 2 weeks after the panel, I got a message from a major digital agency, New York-based, prestigious, the kind that works with global brands. They're creative. Director told me they'd watched my speech, and they wanted to offer me a position. I smiled. But there was a bitter twist to it, because I could feel it. They weren't inspired by my success. They were trying to keep my impact close enough to monitor, to manage, to dilute. But I knew what this was, a seat at their table. And I've always been good at flipping the script, even if I'm sitting across from people who never expected me to speak. So, I took the job, and surprise, I was the only Black woman in the entire office. Some days when I went to grab coffee, people assumed I was the intern. In meetings, I'd pitch an idea, and 5 minutes later, someone else, usually named Jackson, would repeat it. Brilliant idea, Jackson. No, it was mine, but brilliance doesn't echo the same when it comes from skin like mine. Still, I didn't back down. I poured my soul into every brief. I told the history behind every color I used. I hid power in every logo, and every design whispered, a Black woman was here. Then came the fashion campaign, a huge client. The visual concept everyone raved about? Mine. But when presentation day arrived, my name wasn't mentioned. My signature had been erased from the slides. That night, I asked for a one-on-one with the creative director. I think there was a mistake, I said. My name was removed from the final deck. She smiled. In this industry, it's all about teamwork. Individual credit isn't really the focus. And all I could think was, funny how teamwork only matters when you're Black. When you're white, your name gets printed on the invite. That night, as the office lights dimmed and everyone went home, I left my laptop open on purpose. And in the campaign deck, I added one line. Visibility without credit is erasure. Imani Rhodes. The next morning, the brand director reviewed the slides. She saw it, and within hours, she asked to meet with me, privately. And in that meeting, for the first time, someone looked me in the eye and said, "We want this campaign to carry your name." Not hidden, not whispered, owned. That day, I stepped out of the shadow and rebuilt myself. Again. After my name appeared under the official brand campaign, something shifted on social media. The hashtag Imani Rhodes popped up for the first time. But let's be honest, visibility doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it just paints a target on your back. There were people inside the agency who didn't take it well, especially Joshua. Joshua was known as the agency's golden boy. Sharp suits, smooth talk, mostly built his name by piggybacking off of other people's ideas. And now, I was his biggest threat, because I had stepped into the spotlight, and Joshua had no intention of sharing it. Then one day, something happened. An email landed in my inbox. Wrong recipient, supposedly. But let's be real, it wasn't a mistake. Someone wanted me to see it. It was a thread. Joshua and a few of the higher-ups were planning a new campaign, without telling me. The kicker? The entire concept was a copy-paste of the proposal I'd pitched weeks ago. only this time they were slapping their names on it. I felt a cold rage curl through my veins, but I didn't yell. I didn't confront him. I strategized. I archived the emails. And the night before the official presentation, I stayed late at the office. Real late. I quietly accessed the final version of the campaign deck. At the very end, I added a slide. A video, actually, with sound, dates, receipts. The video started with my original sketches. Then came time-stamped files, Slack messages, internal memos, all proving the ideas were mine, start to finish. And finally, one sentence appeared. On the screen, some people create, others steal. Which one are you today? Presentation day arrived. Joshua stepped up, oozing confidence. He started walking the room through the slides until he hit the last one. His face went ghost white. The room went silent. All eyes turned to the screen, and there I was, sitting quietly in the back row, not saying a word, just watching, and for the first time ever, silence felt louder than applause. The aftermath? Predictable. Joshua was sent to HR. I was officially named the project lead, and that day, I learned something I'll never forget. Success built in the shadows crumbles in the light. Joshua's downfall sent ripples through the agency. People no longer just saw me as creative. They started calling me dangerously smart. But to me, this wasn't about titles. It was about refined survival. That day, for the first time, I got an invitation from the executive floor. You know the one. Glass walls that let you see everything from the inside, but reveal nothing from the outside. I stepped into that glossy, high-stakes room, and then I heard it. My name, spoken clearly, confidently. Ms. Rhodes, we'd like to offer you the position of creative lead for our next global campaign. My body stayed still, composed. But inside me, Imani raised her hands to the sky, because in that moment, I realized something. This offer wasn't just a reward for talent, it was the echo of a scream from someone who once wasn't allowed to speak. Still, I asked for time, because behind every offer there's always a hidden expectation. And I no longer accepted words at face value. I weighed them first. When I returned to the office, all eyes were on me, some with fear, some with admiration. But most importantly, no one whispered that black girl or our trans staff member anymore. They used my name. Imani's handling this. Let's wait on Imani's decision. Is Imani joining the project? That night, I stood in front of the mirror in my apartment. I stared at my reflection. And on the fogged-up glass, I traced a single sentence. The ones who tried to silence me are now learning my name by heart. The next morning, I gave them my answer. I accepted the position, but with one condition. My team will include at least 3 black women and 2 trans creatives. This campaign isn't just about my leadership, it's about their visibility too. The boardroom fell silent. Then they agreed. Because they finally understood. It wasn't just about hiring me anymore. It was about keeping me. And from that day forward, other lives began to rise alongside mine. I didn't just step into a role. I stepped onto a stage. And for once, I wasn't standing there alone. When I stepped into my new position, my desk wasn't just a corner anymore. It was front and center, right by the glass, where everyone walking in could see me. The same. People who used to whisper as they passed by now smiled and said, "Good morning, Imani." But I stayed cautious, because success doesn't make everyone happy. In some hearts, jealousy grows in silence. My first assignment? Leading a global campaign for a major cosmetics brand. Theme, real beauty. The irony wasn't lost on me. In this industry, real beauty usually meant filters, lighting tricks, and surface-level aesthetics. But I had something else in mind. They brought me a stack of model portfolios. White, thin, flawless. Not these, I said. I want faces with stories. Eyes that hide pain beneath their smile. People who didn't fight their skin, but made peace with it. 3 days later, I stepped onto set. The first model to greet me had deep brown skin and vitiligo. She looked at me, no words, but in her eyes I heard it loud and clear. Thank you. That campaign shook the industry. Unretouched faces on billboards, real people across social media. And underneath each visual, a single line. Beauty is courage without filters. But behind the scenes, it wasn't all applause. One night, after a late meeting, an executive pulled me aside. Imani, don't you think these visuals are a little too bold? Brand policy? This might spark some backlash. I smiled. But inside, a storm raged. For years, they asked me to lower my voice, to bite my tongue, to blend in, to play nice. But that night, I simply said, "You asked me to lower my voice." I wrote a song instead. And now, everyone's singing it. By morning, the campaign had gone viral. Over 2 million shares overnight. Thousands of comments. But the one that stayed with me was from a young girl. I have dark skin too. This is the first time I saw myself in an ad. I don't hide as much anymore. That night, walking through the quiet halls of the agency, I lifted my head. I wasn't just visible anymore. I was being heard. And that was my victory. When success shows up, everybody wants to stand beside you. But the closer you get to the top, the heavier the stairs from below hit you, like bullets made of envy. A few weeks after the campaign, whispers started circulating around the office. Some coworkers rolled their eyes when they thought I wasn't looking. One afternoon during a coffee break, I overheard, "What did she do to rise up so fast?" That sentence? Familiar. Because when you're a woman, a black woman, one who's unapologetically proud of her past, people don't give you success. They suspect you of stealing it. But this time, I wasn't going to defend my story. I was going to write it, carve it into history. I started an internal email series, Agency Diaries, From Shadows to Spotlight. Every week, I featured stories from voices usually pushed to the margins: single mothers, trans creators, disabled artists. I became their megaphone. At first, no one seemed to care. Then, one day, my manager called me in and said, "These emails, why, they might be pushing the limits of company policy." I looked him straight in the eye and replied, "If the company policy is being used to silence people, then I'll be the one rewriting it." 1 week later, the agency's CEO called me in, a confidential meeting. They were launching a new global rebranding campaign, and they wanted me to lead it. Can you imagine? A woman who once lived in a shelter was now being asked to lead a global creative revolution. But not everyone in that boardroom agreed. During the kickoff meeting, one executive slammed their hand on the table and snapped, "Her past could damage the brand's image." Voyance. Stood up, calm but unwavering, and for the first time I said it loud. My past isn't a stain on the brand. It is the strength behind it. My look, my journey, my scars. They're not flaws, they're proof. If I lead this project, we won't just sell a product. We'll launch a movement. The room echoed. Some looked down. Some looked at me for the first time with genuine respect. I took the project. But that day, I realized something deeper. The peak of the mountain, that's where the winds hit hardest. And me, I didn't let the wind push me forward. I carried it on my chest. The night of the campaign launch. For the first time in my life, I felt completely alone in a room full of people. Hundreds of guests, flashing cameras, speeches echoing off marble walls. But inside me, I was still that trembling girl under the street lamp. I wore a long-tail blazer, gold hoop earrings brushing my shoulders. Every person who made eye contact with me whispered, "Wow," followed by the same question. "Is Celine here yet?" Not "Who's Celine" anymore. Now it was, "Where's Celine?" But despite all the noise, it was a single message that hit me the hardest. A private number. One sentence. "I'm proud of you. Every person who finds their voice in this world speaks for all of us." N. I froze. My eyes welled up. Because N was one of the trans women I shared a shelter room with. Years ago, back when we were nothing but whispers in a world that wanted us silent. And in that moment, I realized my rise wasn't just mine. It was ours. A story carried on the backs of every soul who had ever been unseen. The next morning, I woke up to a Slack message from the agency's main channel. Celine's campaign just hit 2 million engagements. We've been nominated for Global Creative Awards. But buried in the applause, someone in the office muttered loud enough to be heard. She just got lucky. The media loved her sob story. I smiled, straightened my spine, and said, "The media loved my story because you tried to bury it. But here's the truth. We're not powerful when we stay silent. We're powerful when we speak." And that day, I set a new goal: to become the agency's first trans creative director, not just for me, for every person surviving in the shadows, whose names I may never know, but whose hopes walk beside me, because I knew maybe I'll be alone at the top, but that solitude will carve a path for thousands more. The agency's creativity wall was lined with dozens of framed campaigns, legacy brands, award-winning projects, but not a single name belonged to a trans artist. That morning, I walked in holding a frame of my own campaign. One of the assistants asked, "Where should I hang this?" I smiled. "At the very top," I said, "because that's where it belongs." But I didn't stop at hanging a frame. I pushed for a new training module to be added to the agency's program: identity representation and empathy in design. Because sometimes resistance doesn't come in the form of fists. It begins with a pen. There were still people in the office who kept their distance. During coffee breaks, I could read the thoughts behind their silence. Is she really that good? Or is this just political correctness? I didn't respond to them one by one. My response was my work, and my work spoke louder than any of their whispered doubts. One day, the CEO called me into his office. "Celine," he said, "I have an offer for you. The creative director position is opening up, and we'd like to consider you." My heart nearly stopped, but my face stayed calm. "Thank you," I said. "On one condition, we will publicly share our employee diversity stats. It won't just be me who's visible, everyone will be." He hesitated, then nodded, and in that moment, I didn't break the rules. I rewrote them. For the first time in the agency's history, a trans woman became creative director, and for the first time, the sign at the front entrance changed. Here, we grow not just ideas, but identities. My first week in the new role, one email in my inbox stood out from the rest. Subject line: advisory regarding public image. Sender: the board's communications consultant. It read, "Ms. Hartley, it may be safer for the brand if you tone down references to your past experiences and identity declarations in your social media campaigns. We expect a more neutral stance moving forward." The blood drained from my face. It was the echo of an old world, one that wanted to profit from my success while closing its eyes to my story. Once again, the system was whispering, "Be invisible. Don't be too much." But this time, I didn't stay silent. That night, I turned on my camera and recorded a video. To those telling me to stay invisible, here's my response. You thought I was quiet. Turns out I've been writing a song, and every note of it will be louder than your noise. The next morning, I posted it across all my social media platforms. Within hours, it went viral. Celebrities, activists, and even some brands quoted it. The hashtag "Thought visibility is power" trended worldwide within a day. The board? Silent. But in that silence, there was power, because for the first time, I wasn't alone. That same week, a new application landed in the agency's inbox: a 17-year-old Black, trans graphic design student. In her cover letter, she wrote, "Thanks to Celine Hartley, I can finally apply without fear." I couldn't hold back my tears, because my greatest victory wasn't the position, it was the echo. Those who tried to silence me now had no choice but to learn my song. Sometimes people only love you within the limits of their comfort, and when you step outside those lines, you become a threat. While the media was busy painting me as a success story behind the scenes, I was still fighting for space at tables that were never built for me. At one of the agency's big meetings, I was assigned as the creative director for a new ad campaign. And sitting beside me? Travis Bloom. Travis was the agency's golden boy. Harvard-educated, from elite circles, never openly cruel, but every gesture quietly reminded you where your place was. He smiled at me at the start of the meeting, then completely ignored my input. When his part of the presentation came, he introduced my concept design as a team collaboration, not a word of credit. He looked me dead in the eyes as he claimed my work. When the meeting ended, I burned inside. But years of surviving in silence had trained me not to explode. So instead, I watched. I reviewed the meeting recording, searched through email chains, collected digital footprints. And what I found? Travis hadn't just taken my work, he'd stolen from 2 other queer teammates as well. That night, I was alone in the office. My hands trembled on the keyboard, but not from fear, from focus. I built a presentation. I titled it, Visible Theft, Invisible Voices. Each slide showed a design. Next to it, 2 names, True Creator and Presented By. I sent it to upper management the next morning, privately. Travis said nothing, but a few days later, an internal memo leaked. The growing internal social pressures are harming the brand image, it read. Certain employees are becoming too visible. Once again, visibility was treated as the problem, but this time, I wasn't staying quiet. When Travis's campaign was announced on the agency's official Instagram, I posted on my own account. Not all ideas are born at the boardroom table. Some are created alone, late at night, in survival mode. And those who steal them aren't just thieves, they are the architects of silence. The response was immediate. Comments, DMs, tags. Public pressure surged, the agency was forced to respond. And finally, Travis resigned. No severance, no farewell. Post. Just silence in his place. But for me, this wasn't about revenge. Victory wasn't burying him. It was realizing that the ladder he climbed was one I designed. And now I held the right to burn it down. The next month, the agency launched a new creative collective for LGBT+ staff, and they asked me to lead it. My story isn't just about payback, it's a revolution, a reminder that those who've been displaced can build new spaces of their own. That morning, when I walked into the office, my campaign was playing on every lobby screen. The place I once entered with hesitation was now carrying my voice, but somewhere deep inside, little Imani still whispered, "Did we really make it?" Throughout the day, messages poured in. From young girls, from trans individuals, from creatives who had worked in the shadows for years, and they all echoed one truth. You spoke, and we found our courage. That night, I went up to the agency's rooftop. I didn't look at the city lights, I looked inward. To Celine, who once shared a blanket in a shelter. To those dark nights where hope was just a flicker on a laptop screen. To that first meeting, room where I held back tears in silence, and I said to myself, the people who tried to silence me now carry my voice. I may have stepped onto this stage alone, but this stage is no longer just mine. The following week, the agency held its annual Creative Leadership Summit. Awards were handed out. The final honor, Creative Disruptor of the Year. And the winner, Imani Rhodes as. I walked to the stage amidst applause. I didn't give a traditional speech. I just said, my name is Imani Rhodes. I didn't just create, I existed. And this is for everyone who's ever had the courage to simply exist. The next day, I posted on social media. The caption read, "This is my story, but it no longer belongs to me alone. If you dared to dream when they silenced your voice, if you stood back up when your heart broke, if you reminded the world who you are when it tried to erase you, then this story is yours too." And beneath it, hundreds of comments appeared. This is my story too. I see myself in her. For the first time, I feel represented. Tears welled in my eyes, because in that moment, I knew victory isn't a trophy. Victory is being someone else's reason to try again. And I am no longer just a creative. I'm an echo, a symbol, a spark. And maybe I'm where your voice begins.